Give it up for the most beautiful woman on the planet, right there. Thank you. So, how you all feeling? You've been asked that a million times. It gets a lot, doesn't it? I'm numb now from so many how are yous. Perfect. My beautiful friends here, Anne Malone, one of the absolute original gangsters of sound healing, who I'm sure you just heard. How good is she? Dirish, Shakti dance, absolute legend also. And Vaughan, the most amazing, beautiful voice you've ever heard in kirtan and a yoga teacher.
Look at that.
Bosh. Sailing in to the spiritual reality of now. My name's Rach Cox. I'm just a fairy rainbow, sort of slightly foul-mouthed person. Like one of you, hopefully. So, we're here to discuss the sort of mainstream of spirituality. Good faces. Everyone just did a little bit of a pensive, yes, the mainstream of spirituality. Here we all are, digging deep into it at mind, body, spirit. So, how do we feel about the mainstreamness of spirituality? Have you guys had a little think? Who would like to go first?
Blessings and prostrations all. Mainstream spirituality. I feel like it's a bit layered and it's very complex, hence this whole panel discussion. But I feel it's good because due to the commercialization of spirituality, it's now more accessible. And because it's accessible, it's now become saturated. Because it's saturated, it's now been more watered down. So the lineage is changing, the benefits of the practice is changing, it's becoming more about consumption, but with that it's exposing more people to modalities of which they probably wouldn't have had access to before. So in a way it is amazing, and in another way it's a bit difficult because how do you maintain the tradition, how do you maintain the sanctity of what these ritualistic practices are? Without me getting too deep into it, what does anyone else think?
Hi everybody. Interestingly, I was having this conversation with Anne, because she and we led a workshop maybe 11 years ago, maybe even more than that, 14 years ago, where it was sound healing and it was ecstatic dance, and everyone just thought we were wild and wacky. They were like, what is this? We only had 4 people in our workshop, and since then we've actually seen it grow and expand in front of our very eyes. And the thing is, I was speaking to Rach about this earlier this morning, and when we were doing it, it was like we were doing it for the love and the passion of it. We weren't doing it for the fame or the glam. But it seems like since social media has erupted over the past decade, it's that people see the stars in their eyes and thinking, right, I need to get a strategy because I want to leave my day job and live life like a spiritual gangster. Wrong. Because what tends to happen is that they follow the glitz and the glam. And let me tell you something. Me and Anne, we've been here for a very long time at these shows, and we see people come and go all the time. They get their 5 minutes of fame, they don't keep up their practice, and they're gone. They've gone back to, East London at Reed looking for another job. I mean, that's what it is. So I think, those of us who have still been here, we're here, and we're still doing it because we love and believe, and it's part of our lineage or part of our passion. And those who are doing it for the glam, they're not going to be here for that long because they're not rooted. And I feel like when you have a lineage, when you're part of a lineage, you're a part of this consistent stream of who came before you. You humble yourself. And I don't really see so much of that in the limelight of a lot of influencers who are influencing so-called today. So that's my piece on that.
Nice. And Anne, your thoughts, feelings and emotions, please. Yeah. I think that says it all. Anne, you really are a showstopper. Use mine, babe.
Am I on? Hi, everyone, and thank you, Rachel, thank you, Rollins, and thank you, Dirish, and thank you, everyone. So I'm a bit of a nutter, and, this is my life. And I hear all these intelligent people making so much sense, and I'm thinking, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Because for me, it's really about the heart. It's like we come into the world, and we have these little personalities, and we have this thing going on, this life. And for me, it doesn't really matter how we got here, but essentially, if your heart is touched by something other than the obvious, then you're on the right path. And I feel that there are so many layers. And from my experience, it's like there's kind of entry level. And so, you know, not to sound snobby or anything like that, but like there's entry level Pilates. Sorry, I didn't say that.
She did.
But yeah, I did. And I feel that we all were born with these amazing hearts. You know, we all feel things. You know, and people like Putin and God knows what's happened to them in their lives, but it's usually what happens to people in their lives. I think essentially we are good, you know, we've got hearts. And I feel that if Putin and all the naughty boys and girls were to experience their heart, they would have a completely different, perspective on life. So for me, I welcome it all. I think, you know, everyone, you know, has a level that they can relate to. So as I said, I'm the nutter on the panel.
That's two of us, babes.
So one of the things that, thank you, blessings. Can you all hear me out there? Yeah, okay. One of the things that keeps reoccurring is like the entry level and then the glitz and the glam. But also as well, I feel like one of the reasons why a lot of people no longer continue the journey is because of all of these socio-economical barriers in regards to well-being. Not everybody can afford your 3,000, 3-month course or to keep topping up. First it was 200 hours, then it was 300 hours, then it was 500 hours, but then is it only vinyasa? But what about Kundalini? Oh, but you're not teaching enough modalities. And then it becomes a thing like, hold on a minute, I didn't even know that this was happening. This all came from my heart. And now I'm meant to have this, and this. I'm meant to travel here. I'm meant to do this retreat. I'm meant to be with that celebrity yoga teacher who's meant to be giving me this mentoring, to then teach this, to then be to showing up for £35. So I feel like it's one of those situations where a lot of yoga teachers out there, they do want to continue with the journey, they do want to develop their training, but a lot of people also as well, they don't really have the cultural capital. So you can be a 500-hour yoga teacher and then you get into the world of well-being. If you don't talk like certain people, if you don't look like certain people, if you don't have their economical background, then already you are in a position where it's not going to be as easy for you. And if you keep finding that there's so many barriers, you start to realize maybe this isn't for me, and then your eyes start to open up and it can be very ugly. And I've been there myself and I've seen it. And a lot of the things I do now, it's trying to encourage more people to see themselves within well-being. And this is about being, intersectional, not just one representation or in a way, only being in spaces that feel like they're safe to be there. I feel like we should all be everywhere at once, but understand that there are a lot of political barriers, socio-economical things as to why we only see certain types of people able to be on a panel discussion after 10 or 11 or 12, 15 years, because so many people come and go. And yes, there are the people that want the glitz and glam, and there are the people that want to do this for a career, but simply can't, or life happens, and whatever happens, they just go on their own journey. So it's a lot more layered, and I don't feel like it's black and white at all. It's very nuanced, and there's so many grey areas.
Good one.
Yeah.
Vaughan for president. Oh dear. Go for it, Derish.
Yeah, I was thinking also that these days, it's a good thing in a way, like commercializing wellness and spirituality, because a lot of people are kind of done with traditional setups of religious setups, and they're seeking something a little bit more inclusive rather than one way is the only way to God, or one way is the only way that makes you a good person, because people are more open to questioning themselves now. I think we're living in a different era where people are much more open, and it's exciting because for us, we're getting to expose more of our stories of who we are. I mean, back then, people never really knew who we were. They would go to class, they would go to a workshop, and that was it. But now we get to share our stories, and we're connecting with our hearts in a different way. We're actually being more vulnerable. It feels like vulnerability is the new thing, which is helping us to link us more and breaking down this hierarchy of, leader at the top or teacher at the top. And actually we get to be with each other rather than saying, this person knows everything. But actually, the more we put that onto one person, it gives them a big head. And as we know, a lot of leaders are falling down now because of that and because the power goes to their head. And once upon a time, they were seen as serene. And now it's just like, I've got to find the leader and the teacher and in myself first before I even, go out in the world to try to, and this is a lot of us, we look for a missing piece of us and thinking that somebody else is going to be able to fill that up for us. But actually, if you do the practice and you stay true to it, it's going to give you what you need in order to flourish. And that takes grit, commitment. And these days we want insta value. We want it now. We're not willing to put in the work. A lot of us have been doing this for many years, and it takes it builds your character. If you're just in it for the sweets and not in it for the whole cake, that's just going to satisfy a tiny appetite of you rather than a full meal. That's my 2 pence.
Yes,
on that.
mate. I'm just going to say one thing about the commercialisation in a good fashion. Not only did Vaughan say about it becoming more accessible, but it's also exposed the people who are charlatans. Well, actually, it's done both, hasn't it? It's allowed the charlatans as well. I just said that and I was like, no, they're still there. And now I can see them. But it is now people are becoming held accountable for either their lack of knowledge or their abuse, which is prevalent massively in the wellbeing world. We're also involved in the yoga world specifically, and I'm very involved in the martial arts world, and all of that has had huge exposures over the years of people who are put, like you said, on a pedestal, goes to their head, they don't know what to do with that power. So with this exposure, everything kind of bubbles up to the top. And I think for me, the best thing to tell everyone is not only to be in their heart and figure out what they're touched by, but to really have that level of discernment and that power that you're talking about of having it inside yourself. Don't hand your power out. Like this commercialization is one word for, the opening of it, really. And it can be very useful, but it's like everything. We're in Kali Yuga, yin yang. You can take it one way or another. It definitely got me off the crack. Is that good for everyone else? I'm on a stage talking to you now. That's what commercialization's done for you, baby. Has anyone else got anything to add about that?
Yeah, I think also it's giving everybody a voice. Where we didn't have a voice before and there was only one person at the top that had a voice, we're actually able to have a conversation like this, where some of us might not agree with certain things, and it's good to question. Because things are passed down all the time doesn't mean it's always correct, or the way that people show up with integrity. That's the thing they're missing as well. Integral to teachings, or integral to the behaviors that are in play. And a lot of the times when we feel a certain way, we don't feel that we can speak up because we don't feel safe, we don't feel seen, we don't feel acknowledged. We think that we have to earn that in order to speak out and speak up. So in a way, commercialization of that has actually helped more voices come together to fight against the toxicities of power at the top.
However, one of the things that I was just discussing yesterday is about the tokenism now, because everybody is aware that, oh, wow, we really have to make sure that everybody is part of the conversation, but it's still like, who has the power in these conversations? Who is able to initiate their own types of conversations? And it's like, often now there's so many themes. So one of the reasons why I was having this conversation recently was because gay pride is, now? I should know that being queer, but I'm queer, innit? I'm not gay. So.
There's three of us.
It's different. Yeah, I think,
we're all queer.
I think it's now, but it just goes to show, like, there's so much consumerism in so many things. It's just like, oh, sparkles and parties and everything, and then the month finish, and then it's done. On to the next one, and then, like, a lot of the people that, say, for instance, are or who identify as queer, all of a sudden their phone never stops ringing. Oh, it's time for you now to get on the platform. Come and be our voice. Come and show yourself for us. And then after that, okay, thanks, bye, we'll call you, we'll let you know. So we really have to be very mindful with how we are doing our own research to see who is authentic and who isn't, because there's so many people out there that use people such as ourselves for their own notoriety to build up their brand, and then the actual facilitators aren't really getting much out of it. So who are you supporting? You think that you're supporting that person, oh, you know, they've got a queer, intersectional person or whatever, but are they really genuinely doing it, or is it just because it's a trend? So I feel like we have to be really, show more, what is the word? Yeah, discernment. I was thinking Varagya, Vivek, and I was like, no, trying to think of the layman term. But yeah, discernment in everything we do. And this is where we all have to say agency. We can't just rely on leaders to be showing, oh, this person's good, oh, that person's good, oh, that person's got followers, oh, that person's just put that person on the platform. Trust that person. What do you feel? How does it make you feel? Are you doing your own thing? And is it resonating, or are you just following a crowd? Sorry if I'm getting really passionate about it, but it does make me quite impassioned, because I feel like we all really need to stand up and do our own thinking and stop waiting for other people to do it for us. But it is good when we are taking in different perspectives and then trying to digest it in a way that we can then understand where to go from.
Beautiful. Nailed it. Again, presidential speeches flowing galore from Vaughan. Are you a scholar?
Something like that. Yeah, basically, yeah.
The brains on Vaughan. Sorry, I'm marvelling. I'm pedestooling you. You mentioned tokenism, which is something that Dirish and I talk about all the time. Both of us have had experiences of being tokenized, either, in my experience, being a woman or gender fluid or queer or mentally ill. I've got 5, and current 5 mental illnesses, and it is something that you feel like you're used for and then thrown away for, and it really undermines not only your teachings but you as a human. So now we're balancing what you represent in terms of your lineage. I know that everyone here, we've studied our asses off in our lineages. We have practiced. I mean, I've been teaching for 15 years. How long have you been going? 20. Dirish, about 15 as well. 11 and 10. That 1 year was really annoying him. That is how dedicated to integrity that he is. He won't even.
Let's be serious. Like 10 years in it. Let's not try and push it for the panel. It's like, no, it's only been 10.
11-teen.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the tokenism thing. From there, I wanted to segue into appropriation, because that's something that with commercialization, I think that the more, I think you said about diluting as well, like, so the more of it there is, the more diluted sort of sources and resources and teachings and classes that we have. How genuine are they? They're very diluted, perhaps, in some cases. And then how much of it is being not only tokenized, but appropriated as well? And how can you tell the difference between someone who's appropriating or appreciating? It's a tempestuous path to traverse. Dirish, hit me with it.
God, can you simplify the question?
Tell us about what you think, because you've explained this to me before, about the difference between appropriation and appreciation in the well-being world.
Okay. I feel like I have friends who are in lineages, that are Hindu lineages, that are in, different cultural lineages, and they actually go into the community and humble themselves to learn from the ground up. And they always bring and show love to the community that they are culturally, spiritually connected with. And they will always put that culture of spirituality first whenever they're on stage or how they're presenting. And I feel that's a way of doing it correctly, culturally appreciating. Culturally appropriating is when it's a trend and they don't have any, if you ask them questions, they go blank because they can't actually give you an answer about it. They don't know the history, they don't educate themselves, they're not constantly connecting with the communities that this spirituality comes from, they don't know the motherland it's come from, and so forth and so forth. It's just a fad, and that's annoying. So that's the difference for me.
So having some knowledge and connection to the culture, not just taking a bit of it because it looks good or sounds good.
I mean, it goes further than that. I feel like rooting yourself in that culture, like having that constant connection to it and being humble, because a lot of the times when you're appropriating, you're not humble. You're just trying to, you're there for the fame of it, or you're there for because it's trending and it's going to get you somewhere. So yeah, and I'm kind of bored of it.
Dirish is bored of cultural appropriation, everybody. I think that if we take one nugget from this chat, it is that. Anne, my darling, what cultures have you derived your... she's ready to go. You look like Elvis. You look like you've taken it from Elvis. What sort of cultures do you draw upon?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah, so my little story is I was very, very fortunate because when I was in my early 20s, I found my teacher, okay? And at that time, so this is back in the mid-80s, my teacher wore the Krishna outfit. We did darshan, we had the arti trays, and I was totally in love. You know, I had so much darshan. Darshan is where we kiss the feet of the master. And it was just absolutely beautiful and totally romantic. And I was in heaven. Now, we could call that cultural appropriation in the sense that mentally I was there. But as the years progressed, my teacher now, you know, over the years, when he's in India, he'll go in the Krishna outfit and we'll have darshan and all kinds of things. But when he's in the West or, you know, wherever, he'll wear a suit and a tie. So I you know, this for me kind of amplifies what is happening in that there is the big mixing pot. You know, there's the big... I have no problem taking out my shillelagh because I'm Irish. And, you know, being very Irish. And at the same time, I've got no problem saying namaste from my heart, even though some people would view that as cultural appropriation. So for me, again, it's very much about just really finding as we've all said, finding what your truth is, what resonates with you as an individual. So that's kind of where I stand.
Beautiful, thanks. Thanks for explaining you're Irish, because your accent wasn't enough, was it? Isn't it gorgeous?
I am Mexican. No one believes me.
I don't believe you, Anne. I don't. Sometimes I wait for her just to leave me voice notes so that I can hear that beautiful accent. It's great. So, we've touched on quite a few subjects. Donna, darling. Do we have a Donna? No. Does anyone know what time it is, just so that I don't overrun?
Donna.
Oh, we've got 5 minutes. Have you guys got any questions?
Or reflection.
I'm going to come to you with these boots on. I didn't do anything. I don't think. Anyone? And nobody's got anything to say at all about the commercialization of spirituality, appropriation, tokenism, and the bastardization, as well as the uplifting aspects of, you know, well-being principles. No one's got nothing to say.
If anybody doesn't, I'll have something to add about the appropriation.
Let me bully them.
Yeah?
I'm bullying them with my love. No, bullying doesn't work. Oh, yes.
We got one.
Bullying works. Come to me, my queen.
Hello, my name is Garance. You look absolutely stunning. I wanted to ask, for someone who's new in the health and wellness industry and would like to start, you know, thinking about commercializing your practice and making money from the services that you offer, if you had any tips and guidance how to do that whilst keeping your integrity in what you do?
Great question. What was your name?
Garance.
Garance. Ah, je t'aime, Garance. Well, commercializing and making money while staying in your integrity and delivering an authentic practice.
Well, I had a comment to say before that, but I can't answer that question, to be honest with you, because ultimately, whatever you do, someone is going to have something to say. Even for me, someone I was quite close with said to me that I'm culturally appropriating their culture because I had essentially more knowledge than they did. But then when you think about why they didn't have knowledge, it's because of what has happened post-colonially, whereas everything has been stripped away and then they've been westernized and then educated in their own way, and then now it's like, oh, it's popular now to go and be ethnic, whereas well, when you're ethnic it wasn't popular. Now it is. It's okay for the ethnic people to embrace their ethnicity. So it's really hard. So if you're from the outside coming in, it's like half of the time there's so many people saying, you shouldn't be doing that, you shouldn't be doing this, and it's like, but what are you doing in your day-to-day? What's your practice? And half of the people that are saying you shouldn't be doing it don't even have their own. So what I mean by that is everybody has something to say. So as long as what you are doing is from the heart and you are ideally with a guru or someone that has the spiritual experience to guide you. And if you can't find that, at least by doing enough research to be put in a position where if you are going to be challenged, you have something to back it up with, and it's not just a superficial, like generic thing to kind of just react to when someone has something to say. It's because you genuinely know your stuff, and that takes time. You will make mistakes, and I feel like a lot of us are afraid to make mistakes, and we feel like we should know everything. No one knows everything. Only Shiva knows everything, and Shiva is a god, and that's that. Or, you know, depending if you don't believe in Shiva, it's that we are finite, you know. There isn't anything that we are going to take in that is going to allow us to be this primordial being, because it's not that. So as long as you are following your heart and remembering that this isn't the be-all, end-all, you may have this idea now and your ideas shift and change, but all you can do is reflect, look back, and try to uplift others. As long as you are uplifting others and being of service, that's the main thing in all of this.
And probably open to feedback, like you said. So if you stay humble to feedback when you're doing this, like you say, you're always going to make mistakes. But instead of going, oh no, I've made a mistake, and stopping, or oh no, you don't know anything about me, be in that middle lane, you know, and filter it through yourself. And to go back to commercializing and making money from your own business, it started, I'm going to talk about my perspective. It started slow for me. Very, very slowly. I personally do not do adverts or things like that. I prefer to go to these sorts of events, meet people face to face. That's how I've grown my business. My business is Oman-based Wellbeing Festival. It was the first sort of outside wellbeing festival that fully, in my opinion, integrated many different cultures, different people, different abilities. My inclusion radar was off, like going crazy in terms of including people, because when I went to India, I had so many questions to my guru about inclusion and about race and heritage and culture and age and ability. And he said, well, that's where you need to work. And so when you find the exact way that you need to work, and then, you know, I'm a people person, so that's how I connect, and that's how I've grown my business. And as long as you know that what you're charging accurately reflects your experience level, and that you have recourse to a source that's higher than you, it can either be God, but I mean something more tangible like a guru or a teacher, that you keep up your studies and that what you are offering is of benefit. And then the other way is that you also can balance that potentially ethical situation by paying back to a culture that you have learnt from. So I pay part of the profits to a charity that rescues and rehabilitates women and children from sex slavery in India, because what I predominantly teach is yoga. So, and then my martial arts experience, I go and support charities in Thailand because I do Muay Thai. And then you can offer free spaces or supported spaces to people who are differently abled. So it's like, once you start doing the research of how you can include and how you can serve and give the best value, that's how you navigate your commercial side of things without being a bit of an idiot. Cool. See, I can bully and be serious. Know what I mean? Does anyone else have a question about the commercialization or the bringing into the public sphere of spirituality and well-being? Does anybody think it's a travesty? Good, because we're all at a very commercial well-being event. Phew. I'm going to come down because I find that my bullying's better when my aura is amongst you. Anyone got? You've got a great wolf t-shirt on. Now it's just me picking out what you're wearing. That's what this has turned into. Has anyone got anything they would like to say from their personal experience or a question about the modern modalities and how they've come into the now? Everyone's just like, you're saying words, Rach. We don't get them. Cool. Have you guys got anything else that you'd like to say? It was a waste of the outfit, wasn't it? Until I did that, let's face
Fabulous, it's fabulous. Give her a round of applause, everybody. It's a fabulous outfit. She's a great host. I think also it's nice to see more diversity in the space like this, where we're not just included, we're embraced. I think that's what we need to look out for. Because embrace feels more heart-centered, it's collective, it's not just there, make a space, there you go, but like there's something more like, I want you in this space. I want to, embrace where you're from. And I think the more we do that, the more we can build a better world.
Okay, now it's Dirish for president. Head-to-head for presidency here, everybody. Who knew that Mind, Body, Spirit was actually an election?
I have something to add. This is for everyone here. Like, if you want to see more diversity and representation, don't wait for it to be presented to you. Go out and find it. There's so many modalities of yoga that are out there. African yoga, Kemetic yoga, Kundalini yoga. There's all these different types of yoga. There's not just Vinyasa, Hatha, the main yin. There's so many different things. And I feel like when we take agency and support these individual facilitators and make up our own minds about the different types of practices, then it becomes more full with our understanding of how these modalities show up in all of the cultures and heritages, and that's what makes us all one. If we keep on just waiting for it to be presented to us because it's down the road and it's convenient, yes, I mean, we are supporting our local community, but we need to do so much more, because ultimately it's not just about the facilitator, it's about all of us coming together to create the changes we want to see, and not just waiting for someone to make the change and then following them as a leader. So yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So how has it changed, do you think, since we've started? So, like we said, not 11, but 10 years ago. How many again? 10, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I have seen the demise, the slight demise. This is quite, thank you. I was quite squeaky there, wasn't I? The slight demise of sort of a whitewashing. It was when I first came into being a yoga teacher and teaching martial arts, which are obviously Asian heritage. All I saw was loads of either really skinny young white women or really old white men. And I have nothing against them personally. But when I'm looking at that and I'm going, hold on a minute, I'm not sure, is this okay? And, I just used to be very much like, I'm personally, I want to see a little bit more of the sort of, not reality, but representation, and people that I think have, not necessarily just by default of skin colour, lived that culture, but people who genuinely have lived or breathed or learned that culture from a really genuine space. So for me, the commercialization has, one of the things I did at the beginning, has sort of highlighted the pitfalls and the holes. On one end, it has sort of shot into the sphere lots of people who have overnight become famous on Instagram because, they're a vegan and they are a size 6 and they wear Lululemon and they can do the split, which, by the way, has absolutely chuff all to do with yoga. And then, that was what I got very angry about that at the beginning. And so I've really tried to educate myself as much as possible and try to integrate and, like you say, not include but embrace, because it makes my heart sing when I see so many different types of people. And some things you can't see their differences. So that goes back to tokenism. I'm not just talking about things that you can see that are diverse. I know that there's diversity and neurodiversity, you know, that people are from a socio-economic background that you couldn't possibly believe, and by looking at them you would never know. And I have all these stories in my head about people who've come out of prison, people who used to be on the streets, crackheads. Do you know what I mean? I know I've got a highbrow client base. I know it's probably intimidating for you right now. But do you know what I mean? These people come from all over the world, from all different walks of life, and that is something that I have seen change massively in the well-being sphere, which is a good thing about the commercialization, I think. I don't think you've got to turn it off and on, babes.
I just want to touch on something that has been roaming around in my head, and it's the whole idea of AI. And, you know, it's like that... It's that thing where, you know, are we destined to have replicas of, you know, Rachel?
God, hope not.
And it's that thing. It's like we have to look authenticity, you know, and where do we stand with that? Do we want that to happen? And we're talking about power, but this is one thing that's happening right now, and we have got an opportunity to do something about it as, you know, ordinary people. And I think that that's worth having a little chat about. You know.
I think you're right, Anne. AI.
Thank you.
AI, mind, body, spirit. It's become the topic.
AI.
Go for it, Derish.
Well, I think for me, AI is authentic intelligence.
So you make the choice.
Reframing it. And I just think I mean, it's things that's changing so quickly. It's like I find it hard to keep up now. What is real? What isn't real? And I feel like we need to come back into our bodies to feel what is real, because we can get disillusioned by a lot of things because of what is put in front of us. But actually, how does it feel in your body? It's like coming back to your body constantly and having that connection, and not just living from the head up, and not just expecting a leader to kind of tell you what you need to do next, and not being a sheep. So I feel like we need these practices more than ever to keep us grounded, stable, connected, and in authenticity with where we come from. That's my 2 piece on that.
Very good. I know nothing about AI except it looks pretty. So I'm not going to talk about things I don't know anything about. I am going to go back to the commercialization, though, because I think I've just realised that obviously it is our job, and we do have costs. I think it's kind of that midway between being an artist, you know, like people who are artists don't get paid very well, and then when you're offering something from the heart, sometimes you can be taken advantage because you're so freely giving and because you're so devoted to the teachings, and then you've got a bill to pay, you've got the mortgage to pay, you've got food to put on the plate. So this is the thing, it's become a career, whereas it never used to be really a career. You'd just be a devotee. And so that is something that has happened in the change. I mean, it's really taken off over the last 10 years, I think. And we're all navigating, we're all sort of jostling, because we're like, well, I need my bills paid. And then someone else is going, well, the scriptures don't say that. So it's something that you have to sort of feel what's right. And of course, some people make loads of money doing this. Fair play. If that's what they've done and that's how they do it, and they're still delivering a great service, why not? Money's not the problem. It's, you know, how we disseminate it and whether we're actually making a difference in the world. How do you lot feel about it? Hit me with it.
Once again, it's really layered, because with some of these people that are making a lot of money, who's to say that they're not giving back in a way as well? So there's, like, as you said, giving to charities, giving to schools, but probably one of the reasons why they are charging $5,000 for a weekend course, or, you know, X amount of money per hour for a session, is because they are trying to take everything that they've learned to give back to the people that really need it. So it's hard to say, but also as well, when we are trying to make a living, it can become quite conflicting, because I found for me personally that I've had to kind of swallow my own ideas of what I feel this industry is, and maneuver the spaces that are giving me opportunities. And some of these spaces that are able to give me opportunities don't necessarily align with what I believe, or don't really try to pretend that they do. It's just, this is what it is. Do you want to work here or not? So I feel like it's about trying to be as mindful as possible and having a kind of vision of where it is you're going and what it is you're doing, so that you don't get lost in it all. Because yes, it is so easy to say like you're making so much money, and it looks so simple to go on Instagram and you get 5,000 followers, or one post goes viral and all of a sudden you've made it. But that's not the reality of it. So I feel like as long as you are building your foundation from the ground up, no matter what happens, then you can always have your practice to rely on. And practice has changed for me over the years, since I've seen so much emphasis on doing splits and handstands. And now it's not just a handstand anymore. People are starting to go like the one-hand handstand. And it's just like, what is going on? But it's not enough to do the one-hand handstand. Now you have to do one-hand handstand with the splits. That means that you're a true yoga teacher, because you can do it. And it's just like, but then you can't just do that. You have to be on a balcony in Bali to show that, this is your authenticity. And it's just like, what? It is what it is. And we can't avoid this happening, because it is so saturated and it is so commercial and everyone's in it. And this is where it goes to, like, I'm not even sure if I'm making much sense now, but this is where it goes to the gunas. You have your Rajas, Tamas, your Sattvik. And this is all playing out right before our eyes. And for those of you that don't know what those mean, it's like we have our tamas, which is our lethargic, dark, negative energies in some perspectives, or it can be quite deep and reflective. Or you have your rajasic, which is how all of us kind of run. You're drinking your coffee, you're running to work, you're super productive, go, 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 now, restless. And then you have your Sattvik. And your Sattvik is your pure, intentional, authentic, your darshan. But also with that, you can be quite aloof and, away with the fairies in your temple and forget all the rest of the people. We have our God over here and we're fine. So this is all playing out before our eyes. So with this commercialization, this is just heightening what is already apparent in the age of the Kali Yuga. So with all of that being said, if your physical practices change, or if you have a different idea about what you feel that your practices should be, and you see the world navigating and turning into something of itself, remember that yoga isn't just a physical thing. Yoga is a state of mind. Yoga is a lifestyle. Yoga is something so far beyond the tangible that we can't even articulate ourselves properly, because then if I was to be able to articulate it, then that wouldn't be yoga, because it's beyond. So with the commercialization, if you are feeling like you are no longer being represented, or feel safe or feel comfortable, then remember that maybe you are just changing, and it's okay to change, and it's okay to try new things and not be afraid to embrace new things. And I feel that kind of summarizes, or is a synopsis for what we're all trying to say, really. There's a shift, there's a change, there's a merge, and you can't get caught and attached to anything, because if you are attached, then you know that you're not actually doing the practices, because attachment is what we're trying to avoid in the first place. So being indifferent is the main thing that I can think with all of this. And I'm not sure if I've made any sense at all, because I've gone on a whole whirlwind, but I see some of you like nodding and smiling, like kind of agreeing with the kind of thing. So yeah, that's what I don't even know what the question was.
I don't either, but I could listen to you talk all day.
I'm just talking for the sake of talking now.
Exquisite. How are we doing for time? I've got about 10 minutes. Has anyone else got a question or a comment about the commercialization of well-being and spirituality? It's very silencio audience, isn't it?
We got one here.
Oh, yay. A friend. Hello, babes.
Hello. I'm trying to find my voice, but not to. And so I wanted your opinion about social media and how it's opening us up to being able to connect with so many more people than we could before. However, not get caught up in the social media world. I want to connect with people, but it seems like no one is meeting up in real life. No one's going into the same social situations we did before. How do you find it? How do you still connect with people outside of these sorts of events and not get sucked into the social media world?
Thank you. What was your name?
Gemma.
Gemma. Thank you, Gemma. Well, like you said, these events, obviously Mind, Body, Spirit, they only happen twice a year, which is naughty. So let's ask Josh to do it more often, first of all. Lazy Josh, not letting us connect more often in reality. Guys, what have you got to collective people?
Hi, where are you based? Kent. There are so many groups that you can join that are always having, there's loads of events all the time. I feel like we're saturated with so many different events now, and I think the more you encourage people to come out and play, they'll come out and play. So I just think, I think there is an addiction. We're living in an epidemic of constantly being on our phones and devices that is actually destroying our mental health. It's only activating one side of our brain with rewards. And actually nobody really wants to work for the rewards anymore. But if you bring people together and you're there to really uplift and educate and elevate, you're on your way. But if you can't see it at the moment, you have to create it. And you have to lead by example to be able to see that happen for yourself. So I hope that answers your question.
And yeah, I was waiting for Darish to get there because, if you can't see it, make your own. But in the same vein, don't expect 100 people to show up to the first event. And if they do, don't get complacent because there's so many desires and there's so many things happening all at once. But then you just have to have your own idea and intention and stick with it regardless of the fruits of labor. You have to do things. I'm not even sure about what the actual sloka is in the Gita, but it's like action in inaction. So we're doing these things, but what is it for? So, for instance, I've been doing my own events called the 11th House, and that was because I wasn't seeing enough intersectional spaces that were queer, that were black, that were BIPOC, that were working class, that were neurodiverse. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to put these events on because, surely they're all going to want it. Who's coming to my events like that? It's not like that. It's like people are kind of like, I want to come here, Oh, I prefer to go to a club. Oh, because it's like the type of people that I'm trying to attract into well-being. It's like if they're not used to seeing themselves, just because you put it on and you thought that they would, it doesn't mean they're all going to run down. But then does that mean what you're going to stop because you've put on a few events and they're not coming? No. It's like, okay, how can I change? Or what is it that I need to do? Or is it really about them or is it more about myself? Is it about wanting to uphold others or making myself feel more valid by upholding others and getting that praise and that cheers and that validation? And this is something that you're constantly going to have to battle against because even when you join these groups, are you joining these groups because you actually believe in their ideals or are you joining it because you just don't want to be lonely and feel isolated because you're not being a part of the crowd on Instagram? And that is a personal thing. So follow your path, see what feels right, and always reflect upon how it feels.
Or just add loads of random people on Facebook and see if
they
hang out with you.
And hope for the best.
I want to bring it back to nature because if you want to see something flourish, you need to water the seeds, And, like I said, me and Anne, remember when we first started talking, we were saying when we first did our first ecstatic dance and sound healing, we had 4 people. Last week we had 15 people. So there's a big change that you have to keep going. You can't expect just because you put a few seeds to grow, they're going to automatically be there, a big massive sunflower the next day. It's like you have to keep showing up, you have to keep being present, you have to keep nurturing it. The more you nurture, the more you grow. But ultimately you have to believe in what your vision is. If it's the vision to create more and you can show up to do that, then your vision will speak to others and then people will start believing in it. But I think the stronger your vision is and the more you believe in it and what it is, you'll see more of that happen for yourself. So I just think if we bring it back to nature again, because that is what ties everything in to what we want to create.
And I just have a little thing to add to that as well. The thing that I find that is, it always amazes me, is that even through the social media and, through the in-person connections that we have, our authenticity shines through. So if we're in a position where the only thing we can do is connect through social media, we're going to feel that. It's going to come out of the screen or whatever we're doing. And likewise, in person. So I think probably how I feel about it is like the wave. It's like sometimes we'll be very, very connected to the social media, but we will also be very connected to our hearts. And we're going to feel, okay, that's really feeding me. That's giving me something. And likewise, we could go to an in-person meeting and we would leave feeling empty. So really, I think it's a bit woo-woo, but where I come from is like essentially it's a love thing. It really is. We can be on social media and we can say, yeah, I love everyone, everybody loves me, blah, 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 and there's nothing there. We can feel it. But if you just say even 3 words like, I really love you, and I wish you could feel that. They're 4 words, sorry. 4 words. So I feel that's kind of like the bottom line for me. It's definitely waves. So that's...
And most importantly, support other events. If you want people to show up and you want to see more, support other events, regardless of how far it is or how late it is or how inconvenient it is or whatever. If there is something that aligns with you, go and support it. Keep shouting about it, and then, build up from there. Because, Darish is always one of those people that are so inspiring. They have such notoriety in the industry, and yet when there's new events, Darish is always there supporting people. And this just goes to show about your authenticity. When you see people like that, it inspires others to remember, like, we're all in this together. And it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to every single one because, we all have lives, but at least try to do what you can to show your support for new people as well as people that are quite established, so that everybody is getting the opportunity, because you don't know what kind of gems you will find or what gems that you forgot about that could be rekindled because someone has propagated something within you that you forgot or that you didn't even know that you had. So, yeah.
Yeah, Dirish is good like that. Dirish has been with me for 10 years at every single one of my events, and we started with 100 people in a field. Dirish has also traipsed across to Cyprus with me a month ago to come and teach at the first Oman base in Cyprus. Yeah, and that all came about because I added him randomly on Facebook, and then I asked him to phone me, and I swore at him quite a lot and realised he was down to earth and kind of jolly. And then basically, yeah, and we both do the same thing. We go to all these different festivals whenever someone's starting something up. So yeah, be part of others and start your own, and add loads of people on Facebook. I love you. Thanks very much.